Hello, and welcome to another episode of 60 Minutes with. I'm your host, Crystal Petry. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you subscribe to my podcast right now. On this week's episode of 60 Minutes with, I am sitting down with Latasha Rogers. Latasha is going to educate me and educate you on client experience and expectations, but also the importance of business processes. So, if you have a small business, a medium business, a large business, you need to know, understand, and implement business processes. So, welcome to the podcast, Latasha. How are
Thank
you?
you. I'm good. I'm so happy to be here.
I
So happy
am
to be here.
happy to have you on this podcast because one of the main reasons, it's a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons I'm happy to have you on this podcast is to talk about and educate us on business processes because business processes are a huge part of business. You know, Amazon has them, Airbnb, like all of these huge companies that we probably frequent all the time has business processes, but we don't realize it on the other end of it.
hmm Right.
Yes.
We'll complain if we don't,
Um,
if something goes wrong. So we'll talk about that. But when it's smooth, you have no idea what it is.
which is the point. Which is the point. So
Absolutely.
as my audience, as you guys are listening, if you want to reach out to Latasha, she's going to give out her information later on. If you need help on creating, building, implementing your business processes, stay tuned because she's going to let you know how you can speak directly to her. So Latasha, tell us, where in the world is Latasha Rogers right now?
I am currently in South Jersey, the south of New Jersey. I'm originally from New York, but we've been out here for about 10 years.
Okay, excellent. So you are my first guest from South Jersey or Jersey at all.
Okay.
So welcome and thank you for that. So my first question, obviously, for you, Latasha, is explain to us in layman's terms what is a business process.
Okay. So a business process is actions or steps that are put together in order to achieve a goal.
Okay.
So it could be whether it's the main goal, then that's broken down into smaller goals. I say each process can have a process.
How do you write or create business processes?
So there's so many ways to do it. But I teach my clients simplicity because I'm a very simple person, and if it's too much going on, I will like not be a part of it. So in order to keep it simple, I say, especially as a solopreneur, when you're working in your business, you can record it. There are softwares like Loom, record the things that you do on a day to day. And then it has transcription. You can just have that over, as I would say, a draft of your processes. And then eventually you can transform that into text where you can create the steps. But I recommend Loom and Scribe, which is a screenshot software that just takes steps of what you're doing each step at a time, and then it shows you from the beginning to the end. So that's a simple way that I recommend that my clients do their processes because they hate it. They hate the word SOP. They don't like it. So that right there is something that you're doing it anyways. Just record it.
Right. Okay. So a couple follow-up questions to that. First one, what is SOP?
An SOP is a standard operating procedure. So it's the I guess process in which you complete a particular action in your business. So whether it's how do we respond to emails, or on the simplest term, how do we open an email? How do we compose the email? So the SOP would show what the process is for that particular company and how they do it in their business. So it's
Okay.
kind of
So
the sub level of processes.
so there is a way to open emails because I literally just click on it and go.
So it's when it comes to SOPs, it's specific to the business.
Okay.
So it can be, everybody open emails for the most part the right way, right? So let's say when it comes to how to answer an email, depending on the business, if it's like customer support, then the SOP will say something like, make sure you look at the name. Is the name spelled right? Or is anyone, did you what do they call it? CC anyone in the email. So the steps within that, instead of, because sometimes things we do so much, we just do it and we don't realize the steps in it. It's just like, I just hit two buttons, but actually, no, there was a process before you hit that send button, whether it was checking the grammar, whether it was making sure that the document was attached. That's important when it comes to, that's why SOPs are important. There's many times that you send an email, I forgot to send the attachment
Yes.
in the
Yes.
SOP.
Yes. Okay, so Loom, explain Loom to us. So you're saying that this software Loom can record our screen, and then does Loom turn that into the SOP for us, or do we watch that and then create our own SOP?
So there's two parts. Loom, it's a Chrome extension, and there's also I believe, a desktop version that you can download externally. And for the Chrome extension, you just hit the button. I use it daily, just about daily. Sometimes I'm working behind the scenes for a client, and I'm like, hey, does this look right? Or you've got a question or whatever. Loom, hit the button. It's recording. So it's a screen recorder. But what it does is it transcribes also. So everything that was in the video, there's text to it. So if you're intentionally creating an SOP, you can talk yourself through the steps, and it will
Okay.
record those steps. And then you can take that transcription and form it into an SOP. You will edit it how you want it, because people do different formatting when it comes to the SOP. It can
Mm-hmm.
be just step by step, whatever works for you. And then that you can use that as the platform or the tool to record, and then turn it into an SOP. And I recommend saving it, because it's saved as a link, and you can save that. I recommend saving it like in a Google Drive folder or your
Okay.
project management folder. Just have it organized in there as a link, and just name it whatever that SOP is.
How do you know, and speaking specifically for business owners or people who want to go into business, how do you know which processes you need?
I always say start with the most basic. So you need to have what happens when they contact you. How do they contact you? Do you have a contact form? What do you have? Whatever, do you have a vetting process when it comes to how you're deciding whether they book a call with you? Do you have a calendar? So I say start with the very basics to get you from how they can find you to how they can get on a call with you, or for a product-based business owner, how they can purchase your product.
Okay. And
And
when
for the most
should,
part, that's standard.
okay. And when should a business owner start creating or create their business processes?
Immediately. A lot of people, myself included, have made the mistake of, I don't really need to do this because I don't have a large team. I don't have a lot of clients. But then when you have a lot of clients, you don't have time to do it. So I say right away, it's the easiest to start right away while you're figuring out, because they're going to continue to change. You're going to realize this doesn't work anymore. Now that I have a team, I need to change it up this way. So immediately, and then you can always change it, update it as needed, but definitely from the beginning.
Latasha, if my audience wants to get in touch with you, if they need help with their SOPs, with their business processes, or figuring out Loom, how can they get in touch with you?
My website is my name, latasharogers.com.
Okay.
Or they can send me an email at latasha at vipvirtualbusinesssolutions.com. That's the name of
Okay.
my business.
Perfect. Perfect. What are some key parts of a business process? So I know that, as a business owner, you need to create your business processes as soon as possible before maybe before you have a lot of clients and a lot of staff and things like that. What are the key parts of your business process that you absolutely need to have?
Like I mentioned before, starting with the contact. How do they contact you? Make it easy for them to contact you.
Okay.
So that's having your contact information on your social media, on your, if you have a website, and your website, and your email signature. You know, you send out emails. Some people don't even think about that. Someone may have saw it before. They may not have been a client for you in that moment, and they check. Oh, well, I did remember seeing someone who had this title that emailed me, and then they can go back and see that. And a follow-up process I feel is very important, because we sometimes the timing isn't right, and we come in contact with people. We may go through the process of inquiring about the service, and then we forget about them. So if you're not really doing your part by reaching out, they're probably not, but people have a lot of things going on, so they may forget. So I think a follow-up process is very important when it comes to your client experience.
Okay. And explain that to us, client experience.
So the client experience for me, what I would say is, it's the journey that your client is having with you from the beginning to and I say it's before they become a client, during and after. And it's kind of like, when they're done, when you've whether sold the product, or you sold the service, or you just had a consultation about it. How did you make them feel? People get stuck on the sale, and it's like, how did you make them feel? Even before that, they may not be a good fit for you, but they know, this energy was good, or I felt this type of whatever, and I have someone that I'll refer to you. So the client experience is the client how you're making the client feel along the journey that they're uh, interacting with you about your business.
And why is that important, the client experience?
It's important because it's the key factor in whether you retain clients. A lot of people, they want to, I know, like for me, I have retainer clients where I worked with them on a day-to-day basis, and then I have clients that it's a one-off project. And those day-to-day, they want to continue to work with you. So if the situation isn't good, they're not feeling good, especially if you're working with them every day, this is part of their business, then you want to make sure that it's a good one. You want to make sure that experience is pleasant for you and for them.
If someone wants to, as soon as they finish listening to your podcast, this podcast, if someone wants to immediately implement a business process,
Hmm.
what would you suggest would be the easiest, quickest one that they can implement that's going to make the most impact?
um, I would say the first one would be um, the contact form.
Okay.
um, that I say the contact form because what a lot of people are doing now, instead of just, hey, this is my contact information, or they just put their name, there's like what I call a qualifying contact form, where there's questions on that form that lets you know whether this client is ideal for you. It gives you more information about what type of client they are, because sometimes there's not a need to get on a call. So
Okay.
that part right there, is I recommend a lot, because it helps with the vetting process. Like a question could be, how long have you been in business? And you may do better with clients that have been in business for 10 plus years. And then even in that, you can have, instead of, okay, well, even though they're not a good fit, I may have a digital product for them, or I may have a referral for them. And instead of saying, oh, well, that's not my type of person, or the DMs. A lot of people do the DMs, and they're trying to find out if you can help them with their, with the issue that they're having in business. And instead of just cutting it out, you could simply here fill out this form or whatever, or fill out the information on my inquiry form, and then you follow up with them, and help them, whether it's not with you, someone else, or another resource.
Okay. What are some other questions that you think need to absolutely be on every contact form?
Mm. So one thing I have on mine for sure is, I have one of my qualifying questions is whether they're ready to invest, and the time frame. So I have, are you ready to invest now? And then I have the options like, in 30 days, or not, or just no. So then again, you have an idea of what you're dealing with, because you have some people who sometimes inquire for information, but not necessarily for to work together. They're trying to see, what information I can, possibly get to get me going to the next step. Um, but not necessarily ready to invest in the services.
Okay. So we need at least, are you ready to invest on there? Of course, the client's name, client cell phone
Oh,
number, phone
right.
number, and client
Email,
email
right.
address.
Yes. Contact
Okay.
information. Um, and the challenge that they're having. Another question I have is, what have they done um, already? Like, what have they tried already? So that we know, if maybe you tried what I'm already going to offer you, and you may need
Oh,
something
yes.
else of a different level. So I'll ask that, what have you tried already, and how did that go, or why didn't it work for you?
Okay. You call yourself a full-time client support manager. Explain that to us, and then why do you call yourself that?
So I've changed my title so many times. I started out as a virtual assistant, and I didn't like the title
Okay.
because it came with um, a certain uh, I guess stereotype of what people felt that was, and that was the low paid $5, VAs, and I wanted to be an
Oh,
advocate for that being something different. So I went from that to, and I said virtual support because more so is that's what I do. I provide support virtually, and it wasn't just in one in particular lane. And I more specialized in the client experience and system strategy more so because of that. So it's all done. It's all virtual support, but there's so many umbrellas that it can fall under that it's hard to just sometimes people see one thing and like, oh well, that she does this so she can't do this, but it's like, no, I can, just ask me.
yes. Just fill out that contact form.
Fill out that contact form and I'll tell you exactly what we can do.
Yes. Give me some examples of a good customer experience, and give me examples of a bad customer experience.
Okay, and this is on the side of the client or
Yes.
okay.
Oh, you know what? That's an actual great follow-up
Yeah.
on the side of the client and on the side of the owner
Yeah,
as
sometimes
well.
we get abused on our side.
Yeah. Yes, because I'm just thinking like on the side of the client. So,
Right.
yes, let's do both. That's great. Thank you so
Okay.
much for that, Latasha.
Okay. So uh, uh, I'll start with the good experience.
Okay.
Um, it can be, so you're working with someone, you've worked together, maybe on a one-time project. Let's say I set up someone's system, their CRM, putting the automations and everything together, staying in communication with them, letting them know, okay, this is what we're doing next. This is what the process is going to be starting out. People would like to know what's happening. And it also prevents them from emailing you asking, so what's going on? So how's it going? So so to prevent that, you let them know what the process is up front so that they have an idea. You make sure you're doing multiple check-ins at each point where, you're moving on to the next phase. Um, Making sure that you're getting their input, and because a lot of things what I do is a lot of behind the scenes, so they're not necessarily involved. They basically like, here, this is what I would like it, this is what I want it to do or want it to be, and I'm handing it off to you. But they also, they have to be a part of it in some way because they have to use this when you're no longer with them.
Okay.
So just keeping them abreast in what's going on. And also when it comes to systems, making sure they know how to use the systems. I have a lot of clients that come to me where, okay, someone set this up for me, but I don't know how to use it. So every time I want to use it, I have to find someone to do it for me. So
Hmm.
making sure that they know what you set up for them, how it works, and what they can do to make updates and things of that nature. A bad experience, I would say, falls in the lines of the not following up. I think that's such a huge thing. And even in your response time, people sometimes, they'll email, and you can have, like, even Gmail has the simplest, you can do an autoresponder, thank you for your email. I'll get back to you my 48 hours, just to give them an idea. So they're not like, hey, did you get my email? Did you get my email? But that will be a bad experience, I would say, like not getting back to them in a reasonable time, especially if they don't have a time frame, or having a time frame and then you're still not getting back to them, or not following up. not including them in the process of what you're doing in their business, so that they have to rely on you. Because in sometimes, like, even in that situation, when clients are working with you, they don't want to necessarily ruffle feathers, especially if you're inside their systems. They
Yes.
don't want you to mess them up and then just disappear. So they may
Yes.
just go along to get along, but that once that is over and everything is, done, they're not going to refer you to someone. So it's just like, you want to not make them feel like they're a check, like,
Hmm.
you have to actually enjoy it, be a part of it, be just as excited with them for what the transformation is going to be.
Excellent. Okay, and give us an example of, I guess I can still use the word customer, good customer experience and bad customer experience coming from the owner
Okay.
side of it.
So, we have clients that they are kind of, what I've dealt with, especially as a VA, it's like, okay, if I'm paying you, it's kind of like they feel entitled and kind of like they owe you. And then, I mean, they own you. And something that I make sure I have when I do business is a contract and what we call scope of work. And when you don't have scope of work, then you're allowing that to happen. But if you have scope of work and a client is still trying to take advantage of that, that's a bad experience for sure. It's like, they
Yes.
know this is what we agreed to, and now you're going outside of that scope. And then, a lot of clients, I mean, a lot of business owners will feel like, and if I don't do this and this ends bad, then I'm going to get a bad review. So I
Right.
think, that's also another reason to make sure that you have things clear in your agreements, when you're working with clients, because, and some just have power trips. And so that in that situation, it will be a bad experience. But I also feel like you can still come off of that gracefully. You don't have to stoop to that level. You
Mhm.
can kindly end those services, and wish them well, because, you don't want to leave it off on a bad taste. You never know, they may come back like, I realize I wasn't the nicest and I want to work with you again. But if you met that energy with them, then you're not, doing the best that you could, because that's still the client experience. Even though they wasn't nice to you, that's still their experience with you.
Yes. And that could be a whole nother podcast, how
Yes,
to not
ma'am.
eat that meat that
Yes.
or exceed that negative energy.
Listen, have friends, have other business friends that you can have a group chat about.
Yeah.
Don't let that out.
Yes, yes. Okay, so speaking of bad customer experiences, can owners, this is a two-part question. Can owners come back from a bad customer experience? And if they can, how can they come back?
I think they can. I know I had a situation with my team member wasn't fulfilling the client's needs.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things where the client is just like, okay, team member or not, that is you. That is your business. They represent you. And they were not happy about it. There was things that was happening, that mistakes was made. I've made mistakes with clients. And I think that, having grace with yourself, because we can beat ourselves up as well, having grace with
Right,
yourself, and also, telling that client how you can fix it. Don't be in your feelings, defensive. Just tell the client, I acknowledge that this went wrong and this is what I would like to do to fix it. And you may, go a little extra. Like, maybe, they didn't, their services didn't include this. Because of this, I'm gonna add this. Even though this is what we didn't, this wasn't part of this package. I'll add this for you, so to show that, I value the work relationship, and I want to show that, I'm committed, because mistakes happen. But, you don't have control over how someone deals with your mistake.
right, right. So you have spoken so eloquently about the importance of business processes and standard operating procedures, but why should a business owner even care about SOPs or business processes?
Because if not, you will be stressed out. If every time you get a new client, you have to figure out, now, how do I serve them? What way do I serve them? What order do I serve them? How do I get the service, the product to them?
Right.
You're going to stress yourself out, and in turn, it's going to affect their experience.
Right. Okay. So I have some some questions here that I want you to
Okay.
explain to me and explain to my audience. What does consistency mean when it comes to business processes?
Uh, for me, I would say consistency means being on top of it. Like I said, they're going to change, but as they change, you have to make sure you're updating them because they may change and we have them up here, but we're not
Hmm.
documenting them. When you eventually, if you're a solopreneur and you eventually want to have a team, then you're going to have them looking at old processes when you're not doing them the way you used to do them. So being consistent is making sure that your processes are updated, even if, like I said, if it's just a loom and we didn't make it an official SOP yet, just update somewhere that this is what the new process is. Because even when you're doing it or trying to explain to someone, this is what I come across a lot with my clients. Trying to explain to someone how to do what you do is not easy.
Uh,
So it's like if you can say, here, I have a video for you, or I have a document for you. And then you can, they can get understanding and then they can follow up with whatever questions they have. But that's one of the main reasons why it's very important.
how often should someone update or review or look at their business processes? Should it be once a year, once every 6 months? What do you think?
I would say it depends on the type of business, and how fast the business is going, because it only really needs to be updated if something changes. So if you started not having a team, then what you're going to have to change is now there are tasks that my team member does. So we're going to have to update these processes where I no longer do this. This gets passed on to this person. So that would require an update. Um, if you're changing the systems that you're using, how we do maybe email marketing or social media management, where they may have been doing it manually. Now we're using this software to schedule our social media posts. So when something changes in how you're doing anything in your business, I would say it's time to update the process. So it's not really a matter of how often. You should definitely look at it more frequently than once a year, because sometimes things change, you don't even realize it, and systems change. So even within a system, how the features in a system, like a Zoom, you may have a checklist on how you do a Zoom call, but Zoom updates often. So you have to make sure that SOP is aligned with what Zoom currently does now.
Mm. Okay, explain how, and this is coming from the business owner, explain how customers can help you determine when to change your business process or when your business process needs to be updated.
Oh my goodness. This one is like, it happens. I say this is a lot of the driving force of when systems are changed, processes are changed, because when you're starting out, you don't realize what can happen or what situations can occur. One thing I was told when I first started out is plan for anything to go wrong. Anything that you think can go wrong, put that in a document so that you know how to handle it. And even
Yes.
then, there are going to be things that you're like, I did not expect that. So this is why the client journey is so important, because they do drive your processes in a way. Because if my client is telling me, I keep sending this email and this is not working, and we're like, you got to assess that. Like, clients are complaining about this, so we have to figure out how to resolve this. So we have to update our process somewhere. So
Oh,
that happens often when you have a client that's complaining about something, and it's not just something that is minor, and you're getting multiple complaints about the same thing. Then it's time to look into that process, that system, and see where you can eliminate those issues.
okay. Now, as far as business processes, what is quality? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that even sound like?
So quality, I would say, is like when we talked about a little bit in the beginning, it being seamless. So it doesn't matter how expensive the system, your CRM, and any of that is, because as long as on the other end, your client does not realize if there is a hiccup, your client is not affected by any loose ends in your business or in your process, because the quality of it is substantial. And some people have smaller processes than others. Some people have less steps in their process. But as long as the customer is not left feeling like, okay, I'm still waiting, or I don't think she told me this, or there's something that they're feeling like they didn't get answered, then there's a break in it and the quality is not where it should be. So I would say that the quality depends on how smooth the process is for the client.
Okay. Next one, what is when we're dealing with business processes, what is resilience and why is that important?
Mm, because it can be hard. It can be hard. You have to be resilient. There are many days where I hear people the famous lines, "I'm ready to burn it all down."
Yeah.
And you have to remember why you're doing it, and you have to also remember that it's not always going to be, like people say, highlight reels. It's part of business. And if you're absolutely passionate about what you do, it helps your resilience because you're not just waiting for, looking at waiting for sales. It's more so, okay, um, I really want to make sure that I'm tr- providing a transformation for my client that is life changing for them, for their business. And sometimes you fall short of that and we beat ourselves up. Resilience is important in that aspect as well because we can be our own worst critics. But I feel like it's very important because without it, you won't last long in any business.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. You have used the acronym CRM a couple times during our podcast. Explain to me what that means and what is the importance of CRM.
So a CRM is a client relationship management system.
Okay.
So it's like the housing of your client experience. So the one I use is Honeybook. So for Honeybook, if when someone fills out my inquiry, they go into the CRM. That form is connected. It triggers a flow, and that is how I keep in contact with my clients. That is where, okay, I know what process we in. I know where it's time for us to have a connection call, or we're at the step where we're following up. It's also a good way for you to communicate with your team about where the client is in the process so that they can help you if they're responsible for some of the tasks in a project. But it's the housing, or I would say the project management system for your clients.
Okay. Is business processes and business systems the same thing?
They could be interchangeable because a business process is, as I mentioned, it's multiple steps to achieve a goal. But that can also be a system. You can have a system in place that says this is what I do. But then we have a physical system or digital, with like a CRM, like Slack, like Zoom. Those are all systems. So
Hmm.
in that aspect, it's interchangeable, but they can be the same.
Okay. Now we've talking, and you were just talking about it a little bit before with being resilient. How, and this is kind of an emotional type question. How can business owners stop beating themselves up or just harping on themselves? What do you think are some tangible and some intangible ways to do that?
Um, for me, having a supportive community um, is important. Something that I've done recently is I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, we do so much and don't realize it because we're so stuck on the long term goal, that big goal, that we don't see the other things that we've done. So what I started doing is I'll have like the little sticky notes. I have them somewhere. Those little sticky notes, I have them like the ones that's like half of the regular size.
Okay.
And I'll write, you write your task that you're doing for the day. Ideally, I like to say like daily three top things that you want to get done for the day. And when I'm done with it, instead of just throwing it away, because I'm like, these things eventually, you paying for these, they're going in the garbage.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is I'll put a check mark on it, I'll fold it, and I'll put it inside a bucket. I mean, or a bottle or anything, so
Hmm.
that I can look at it and see what I've done. And you can do that in any version of how you would normally do it to remind yourself, like, okay, I didn't close this deal or whatever, but what did I do along the way? Because sometimes we forget those steps. That's not the main goal. So that's a
Yes.
good way, I feel like, it's in your face and you can look at it and, like, even if you do it like in a little box, like a little scrapbook or whatever, to say, okay, I did this, or I did, and you sometimes forget because we're so used to running like a machine that we don't even realize it, especially when it comes to life, family, or whatever. We're just like, just doing it. So I think that's a good way to remind yourself. And again, having a community of people who understand and can help talk you off the ledge and encourage you and let you know you're doing good. Did you forget that you just did this and you did that? That's good to have. It really does help.
Yes, yes. So if people want to reach out to you, to have you, work with them with their business processes, to have you coach them through their standard operating procedures, how can they reach out to you?
They can go to my website, which is my name, latasharogers.com. You is a contact form on there, and you can fill that out, and I will get right in touch with you. You can also email me at latasha at vipvirtualbusinesssolutions.com.
Okay. What is your personal intention in this space, would you say, Latasha?
For me, it is I want to change the trajectory and the way that the customer experience is looked at. I come from a background of customer support, working in call centers for many years, and like many people, it's not the most fun job, but I enjoyed resolving the customers' problems, but I didn't enjoy the phone work. So
Mhm.
when I became a VA and I was able to work with a little different clients in different spaces, I was like, oh, well, there is a way to, doing with email support, and then more so helping with the other side of it. I'm like, okay, so it's not just the how we're dealing with the clients, but it's like, what is the experience that they're having? But what with the business owner? It's not just okay, whether they bought something from us or they didn't buy something from us. Are we making it enjoyable for them? Are we making the experience something that they want to tell people about? That once we're done with our project, or the sale, are they still talking about it, thinking about it? So for in that aspect, I wanted to really tap into that to show people that it doesn't have to be hard, but you want to make sure that you're making that you're treating your people, your clients, with the the respect and the importance, because they're valuable. Without them, you don't have a business, and you don't want it
Abs-
to just end there.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. What does technology have to do with business processes, and how does technology help business processes?
There is so many options these days, especially with AI, which is like Chat GBT. I say is one of my team members. There's so many ways to use it, but I feel like it's important because I think a lot of times when I talk to my clients, the issue that they're having or their apprehension with like automating things is, well, my clients are used to the personal touch. They're used to being able to reach me, to touch me, to whenever they want to. And then my question to them is, but does that work for you? You can have a process
Right.
where it works for both of you, and using technology can help you serve your clients the way in the level of quality you want to serve them, but still allowing you to have that breathing room to be creative, to do other things that you may want to do outside of just being, because we say we want to start a business that we have the flexibility and freedom, but no, we don't, because we're tied to our businesses like it is a 9 to 5. So um, using a technology allows you to get a little bit of that break and flexibility while still serving the clients to the quality that you want to.
And talk to us a little bit about AI and how that has been beneficial with standing operating procedures and business processes.
So, like I mentioned before, a lot of my clients, like when it's time to make SOPs, they don't like to do it. So like using Loom, and one thing I tell them, like even when it comes to creating like templates, a lot of when it comes to these processes that you have, when it comes to your client journey, the emails that you're sending, the follow-ups, all of those things, you have to create the documentation for it. And the great thing about AI, specifically ChatGPT, is you can have ChatGPT generate that for you. So it's like, okay, you go through the process where, okay, I need a follow-up email. I need a this form. I need a questionnaire. I need all these things. And it can be overwhelming, but you can also just go to ChatGPT and have it create that for you. You may have to edit, what you want, but for the most part, you at least have a draft to work with, that instead of spending that extra time trying to think of what should I put in here and all that other stuff. You can kind of, I call it like, how you go to amusement parks and you get that flash pass where you get to skip the line. When it
Yes.
comes to ChatGPT and creating documentations and things like that, that is the the flash pass for you in your business. People like sometimes feel guilty because they thinking, oh, no, it's your business. You're telling it how you're running your business, and it's just helping you create the documentation for it. That's it.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Now, on the other side of that coin, has technology hurt business processes?
I think having too many options sometimes hurts because people think, I know for me, one software was very popular at one time. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to use this. And it was not for me. It was too much going on. Sometimes when you see other people using something for their business and it's working great for them, you think it's going to work for you. You start thinking, well, is it me? Am I the problem? But I think, it can hurt in that sense. But if you actually know what you like, how you're running your business, what things that you need, what boxes you need checked, then you only need to worry about that system, not the system that someone else is using, because it may not work the same for your business. So I say it can hurt if you're not really paying attention to what your business needs are and you're following what other people are doing.
Okay. What are some must need, must have technical tools that you feel like every business needs to incorporate?
A scheduling system like Acuity, Calendly. They are both free, and Google even have one. They have one now. I'm getting familiar with that one, but Google has one as well.
Okay.
Um, a I don't some I guess it depends on your business whether you have a website or not.
Okay.
It's gonna depend because I think using something like Canva for a portfolio that works too. Um, what else? Email. I suggest not using a at gmail.com email for your business. I suggest getting a workspace email that has, business name. Um, what is it? It's your name at businessname.com instead of the at gmail.com. It just looks more professional.
Okay.
And there's something else. There's the contact, somewhere for them to contact you, somewhere for them to find your services. So again, that could be like it could be a PDF, it could be a Google Drive um, form, and a project management system. And it doesn't have to be on. There's Asana, there's Trello. I think Trello is the simplest form, and it's very user friendly and beginner friendly to just house your projects, organize them, keep track of everything that you need to do in your business because it can get a little crazy. But I'll say those three things.
Okay. Okay. How does good business processes help with efficiency?
It goes back to, making things seamless. If your business processes are good, then you're not worrying about, well, did I send that email? Did they get this? Like even when it comes to sending an email, depending on your system, it'll say whether the email was actually sent, if it bounced back, if the client even read the email. So things like that, it helps you with the efficiency in your business, having the right tools.
How do you know if your business processes is working and how do you know if it is not working?
I would say it's working if you're able to get from point A to Z without a hiccup, meaning they were able to find you, fill out your form, or book a call, get the services, no complaints, everything is fine. And then the other end of that is if something is, if there's a broken chain where, oh, they didn't receive a document, you forgot to send this, or you didn't follow up, or you weren't clear on what the the
Mhm.
deliverables were for what your service offer is.
Okay. I know for me, one of the things that I discovered that wasn't working is, I mean, this time zone stuff. And, you and I have talked about this, but this time
Yes,
zone
yes.
stuff, listen, the math do not be mathing
And that's why
on
I have
that.
to have it on my calendar. I have PST, I have
Yeah.
Central on my calendar because it's so confusing, especially when you're scheduling calls, because you have
Yes.
to make sure in the settings that you say that you want them to schedule it in their time zone. But it appears when you're looking at it in your time zone because you're like, wait a minute, what time is it? Like what?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
very
that was
confusing
one of the things I kid you not, Latasha. I had to update that today because I started getting
because something
clients.
happened.
Yes, I started getting clients. They were saying, you know what, I'm so sorry. And they were not complaining, but they kept saying, I'm so sorry. I thought this, 11 a.m. was my time. Can we reschedule this for, this time?
Yes.
So I got that a
Then you
couple
got to do it over
times.
again. Yeah.
Yes. And so I was like, you know what? Because I had my process set up to where the time zone was my time zone,
Yeah.
but it was
Mhm.
confusing the clients. So I was like, okay, this is not working because it was making me have to do extra steps
Over.
and
Yes.
right. And the extra emails and things like that, trying
Back
to
and
figure out
forth.
the
Yeah.
time zone and where are you at and where am I at and what time
Mhm.
is it where you live right now.
Like if we just schedule a call for 5 a.m.
Yes, like I literally had people, Latasha, that, and again, they were not complaining,
Right, right. Because
but
it's
they
an
were
honest
driving
mistake
the
and it happens
fact
often.
that this is not working. They would like do a screenshot of the time that they were the time zone and what time it was for them, and then email it to me and say, this is the time I'm, where
Right.
I'm at right
Like you're
now.
both right, but we're on two
Yeah,
different time zones.
yes. Yes. So I was like, okay, this is not working. So, if you guys, you're doing virtual or whatever, and you're in different time
Make sure your
zones,
time zones are straight. Yes. And
make
that
sure,
confirmation, make sure they get
yes,
the confirmation and it says the time zone in the
yes,
confirmation.
yes, yes. So, as I'm learning from you, I was like, that has been happening to me. Like, that's been happening to me. So
Right.
everything
And
that
then you
you
got
are
to change the
saying
process.
is
Yep. Hmm.
absolutely correct. I had to change the process because it was being driven by my customers. I didn't realize my clients, I did not realize, that on their end of it, it was an issue because on my
Right.
end of it, it was not an issue.
Right. Right. Yep. It's going to
Yes,
show you what you need to see and show them something else.
exactly, exactly. Okay, so what would you say? And I normally ask this about people, but what
Mhm.
would you say are good characteristics of business processes?
Keeping them simple,
Okay.
because the other side of it is, although we want to make sure that the client's experience is great, if what you have to do you dread every time, it doesn't work because
Okay.
it's supposed to be good on both ends. So keeping it simple for sure. And again, like I said, on both ends, making sure that it's easy for the client, whatever the process is, so that they don't have to keep coming back to you. They can do what they want, like kind of like a la carte, figure out what they need until it's necessary for you to get on a call or whatever. You want to make it as simple as possible because some people I know I'm not big on like phone calls and all these things. And so sometimes you get deterred by, okay, I have to go through all these hoops just to find out if if this person can work with me or whatever. Another thing is I know when it comes to like people just explaining what you do, having that
Mhm.
somewhere to where, when you do get in the call, it's not an interview. It's more
Right.
so a review of what it is that you know, what they know, and how, the type of support that you're looking for.
Okay. How does business, and I'm going to say good business processes, help put money in your pocket?
Good business processes, again, goes back to, if you made that, think of it like a first date. Even if y'all
Mm-hmm.
didn't know each other, it was a first date, it didn't go well, but the energy was great. You just weren't a good match to move forward. But you know somebody who does, who may be a better fit. So if your processes, if it was a good experience, then they're going to refer you. And retention is what drives businesses as well. That's gonna drive sales. It doesn't, that's why I say it doesn't stop when, before, during, or after the transaction, if there even is a transaction. But how you make someone feel, they're going to remember, and they're going to want to share that with other people.
Okay. And how does good business processes help business owners achieve their goals?
Oh, it's kind of like a motivator. When you see how you're changing and transforming businesses, and you get, like, you get reviews and emails about how happy they are, and how much easier things are. It's like, oh, I love what I do and I want to do more of it. Versus I want to quit today because clearly I can't make anyone happy. But when your
Yes.
clients are happy, it makes you happy. It makes you want to do more. And it definitely drives as a motivator.
Okay. And how does good business processes, excuse me, help a business owner define their business outcomes?
Mm. I think when you're able to learn from everything that's going on in your business, the good, the bad, and kind of assess like where you are, and where you want to go. Because there's times where, we have this, I'll say, this little goal for ourselves, for our business.
Mhm.
And then after being in business and after seeing, the transformations, that goal changes. You realize, oh, I can go further than that. So then that it drives your goals. It drives the direction of your business. Where even if you feel like, I don't want to do this anymore, I'd rather do this, it has a lot to do with that.
Okay. A couple more questions, Miss Latasha, then I'm gonna let you go.
Okay.
How does good business processes help business owners determine what is not working within their company?
I think once, when you actually care, if some of the things that your clients are saying is not working, and you actually care, to do something about it, or you're just like, well, it's working for me, that makes a difference. So, making the changes based on the feedback that you're getting and paying attention to that feedback, I would say that's an indicator.
Okay. And my final question for you, who do you think would make a great guest on the podcast? But you have to help me get them on.
So it would be, who I call my biz bestie, unicorn. Her name is Arlene Cruz. She's in a marketing and sales space, but the way she coaches people in marketing and sales is just like, it's something where it's not a one size fits all. Like, I like to say that with me, I said, she gives me, she comfortably pushes me out of my comfort zone. So it's like, not one of those things where, you're going to do this because this is what the market says you could do. It's like, what are you comfortable with? And then we're going to stretch it a little bit and make sure that you're being authentic to who you are and the audience that you want to attract.
Okay. Well, I cannot wait to get her on. But I mean, you have been amazing.
Thank you. This is my
You have
first
been
guest
amazing.
podcast. So
Is
I,
it?
yes, yes. So I thank you. This
It's
is my
ju-
very first one. Yes.
oh
And
my
I
goodness.
had it on my things to do this year. So, and
Really?
yeah. So when I got the email, I was like, what's happening? I didn't say I was ready,
Yeah.
but like, God said you are. So here we
Yeah,
are.
God did. I did not know that. I am
Yes.
so excited that I helped you achieve a bucket list item for the
Yeah.
year.
Just want to go right in there.
You can scratch it off and put it in your bottle. Well,
Yes.
congratulations.
Thank
Listen, I did not
you.
know this was your first podcast, but you knocked it out the park. You
Thank
did.
you. Thank you.
You knocked it out the
You made it
park. Thank
fun.
you so much for saying yes to being on the podcast.
I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. You can get this podcast and all of my other podcasts on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.